The snow fell without mercy the night they threw Scylla out. She did not scream. She did not beg. She had known this moment was coming for 3 cycles of the frost moon, ever since the elder healers had pressed cold hands to her stomach and declared her hollow, barren. A frost-kin female who could not carry young was considered an insult to the great cold itself. Among her people, a female's worth was measured in offspring. Without them, she was nothing but a beautiful mistake. They stripped her of her fur wrappings and left her only the thin crystalline sheath her body naturally produced, the pale blue membrane of her skin that shimmered like ice under moonlight. Her long white hair whipped against her face as the village gates closed behind her with a sound like a coffin lid. She knelt in the snow outside and pressed her palm flat against the frozen earth. "I will not die here," she told herself. "I refuse." She had walked for nearly 2 hours through the blizzard when she saw the light. It was orange and warm, the kind of warm she had only ever seen from a distance, flickering from a small square window in a low wooden structure half buried by snowdrifts. Human architecture. Crude. Fragile. And yet somehow, against all this cold, it was standing. She collapsed 30 steps from the door. Kael had not planned on finding anything alive that night. He had gone out only to check the traps he'd set along the eastern ridge, and he almost missed her entirely. A blue shape half swallowed by white, barely visible against the snowfield. He might have thought her a fallen tree if her hair hadn't moved in the wind. He knelt beside her and felt the temperature radiating from her body. Not warmth, but cold. Intense, unnatural cold, the kind that should have killed him on contact. But it didn't. It was just cold. Like holding a stone from a riverbed in winter. Uncomfortable but survivable. "Hey," he said, turning her over gently. "Hey, are you alive?" Her eyes opened. They were pale silver, like the inside of a cloud, and they looked at him with a particular exhaustion of someone who had decided to stop fighting but hadn't quite finished dying yet. "I am not contagious," she said. Her voice was low, accented strangely, each word shaped like it had been translated from something older. "You do not need to fear me." "I'm not afraid of you," Kael said, which was mostly true. He was a little afraid. But he was more cold, and she looked worse off than him. And he had never been the kind of man who could walk away from something dying in the snow. "Can you stand?" "No." "All right." He put his arms under her, and the cold hit him like plunging into a winter river, and he carried her inside. He stayed. Not permanently at first. She slept by the hearth for 2 nights, and on the 3rd she sat up and told him her name. He told her his. They established a careful, quiet arrangement. She would stay until the blizzard passed. Then she would go. The blizzard lasted 11 days. By the time it ended, she had learned how to tend his fire without extinguishing it. Her touch, at full contact, could freeze water solid, but she learned to hover her hands near the logs rather than grasp them. She had learned the names of his tools. He had learned that her people spoke in frequencies too low for human ears when they were emotional, and that she did it in her sleep, a low hum like the earth groaning under ice. He didn't ask her to leave when the snow cleared. She didn't mention leaving. It was 3 weeks later that she told him why she had been cast out. They were sitting across from each other at his small table, eating in that comfortable silence that only develops between people who have stopped performing comfort for one another. She looked at her hands, those long blue fingers with their frost-traced lines, and said simply, "I cannot have children. Among my kind, that means I have no purpose. So they removed me." Kael was quiet for a long moment. Outside, snow tapped gently against the window. "That's the cruelest thing I've ever heard," he said. She looked up. Her silver eyes searched his face for something. Pity, perhaps, or the particular softness that precedes a lie meant to comfort. She found neither. It is their law, she said. Their law is wrong. She had never heard anyone say that before. Not once in all her years of life. The law had always been the law, ancient, unquestioned, cold as the glaciers that had birthed her people. She opened her mouth, closed it. You are one human, she said finally. Alone in a small house. Yes, Kael said. And I'm telling you their law is wrong. You don't have to agree with me. But I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Spring came slowly, the way it always did in the northern reaches, reluctantly in pieces. And with it came a girl. She appeared at Kael's door on a gray morning, 7 years old, barefoot in the mud, with dark circles under her eyes and a bundle tied to her back that contained everything she owned. She was human. She had run from a work camp 3 settlements east, she said. She wasn't going back. Kael looked at Sila. Sila looked at the girl. The girl looked at Sila, at her blue skin, her white hair, her silver eyes, and said without any fear at all, "Are you a snow spirit?" "No," Sila said. "Oh." The girl considered this. "Can I come in anyway?" Her name was Fun. She was loud, curious, and completely unafraid of the cold that surrounded Sila like a permanent winter. She grabbed Sila's hand on her second day with them and announced that it felt like holding a very good piece of ice, and that she liked it. Sila did not know what to do with this. She had been told her whole life that her body was wrong. Too cold. Too barren. Too much. And now this small human creature was falling asleep with her head against Sila's arm, warming herself against the cold like it was the most natural thing in the world. That night, after Fawn had fallen asleep, Sila sat beside the fire and felt something move in her chest. Not her frost heart, that biological core of cold that her people believed determined worth. Something else. Something warmer and more terrifying. Kael sat down beside her and said nothing for a long time. Then, "She's going to need a name giver. Someone official. In her culture that means a parent." Sila was quiet. "I'd like to be one of them," Kael said. "If you would." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the sleeping child. Then she looked at her own hands, those hands that had been called wrong, hollow, cursed.